Hello and welcome to this week's edition of WCS Sports Connection. I'm your co-host Jeremy Qualls, and with me as always is Tate Matthews, a resident expert at football, and we are joined by the one and the only head football coach of the Old Sparty Summit, Brian Coleman. How you doing, Coach Coleman?
I'm glad to be here.
Well, let's talk real quick about the 2016 season for you guys. First time in school history you make the playoffs. You're above 500. Things are going really well. You knocked on the door there on a few things that I know that you want to knock that door down this year. Being the playoffs and getting past the first round, the Independence game was a really, really good game there. Close, come to the wire at the end. Tell me about your when you look back at last year, what are some things that you would like to improve on, some things that you saw that you really enjoyed?
One of the things that stands out from last year is the senior leadership that we had. That those guys, went through the program and almost had two senior years because their junior year, we had very few seniors that year, so they grew up mentally and physically, and then they had a great senior year and were great leaders for us. So did a great job. We're really, really going to miss them this year. So now the new group has to take over. Some of them hadn't been used to leading, so we'll go as far as they can take us, I guess.
Well, we'll get in depth with your roster that you have this year and talk about some things. But there's some ground that we need to cover prior to this. We are taping this is on a Monday. This will air on Wednesday, but Monday night will be WCS Media Day 2017. We're excited about that. It's at Centennial High School. We'll be streaming that as well. Coach Coleman, you and the Spartans will be there as well as every other team in the WCS Sports Conference. You look back at last year, non-conference-wise, Tate, 52-9 out of conference play for WCS Sports Conference.
Pretty strong. I would like to know if any other of the comparable districts, regions, whatever in the state if anybody has a record that can boast.
Would you like for me to answer that question?
Yes. Go ahead.
No, they did not.
I wouldn't think so. And if you go back and look at the losses, who those 9 were, it's pretty neat, man.
Against some top teams in Rutherford County, probably.
Yeah.
Well, then you go back and you look at what's the overall record once playoffs were finished. We had 64-15. Obviously, we had a state runner-up on the 5A level with Independence, but we outscored our opponents combined 2,185 points to 1,082. We had 7 of 8 teams.
We had 73 in one
correct.
game right here. Was it 73?
71.
71.
71 points. Look at and only two passes the entire game.
Yeah.
We had all 8 teams qualify for the playoffs for the first time ever. 7 of 8 moved on in the first round. That's okay. It's part of the growing pains, though. We're not here to make light of it. Let's talk about it. Since we're on it, Coach Coleman, since we're on it.
7 of 8.
You literally have, let's say, a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half away of not only advancing, but quite possibly the biggest upset in the state that night.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think outside of Independence, I mean, we're not into moral victories, right? But I thought Cane Ridge was probably the second best team. Maybe even, who knows if they had played. I mean, when they're playing their A game, they might have been the best team in 5A. They were tough, man. And I was amazed that y'all were up. And
they kind of proved all year too. They were a second half team. I don't know that at that point in time we knew they were a second half team, but you knew going into halftime when you're talking to your guys, they're not going to come out and lay down. They're going to punch you in the face, and how you react to that is going to determine.
They had 2 or 3 come behind victories. I know one from against Hendersonville early in the year, so we preached to them all halftime. They're not going to give up, and they didn't. They came back and won the game against us, and almost came back and made a heck of a game of against Indy.
I mean, literally, they hung on by their fingernails. What was the score at halftime with you guys?
21-0.
21-0. I'm not trying to make light of it. We're just going to talk about it. 21-0, but. In your particular style, Wayne, tell you, you hand the ball off or looking at running the clock. Well, if first downs don't come, then are you forced to get out of your comfort zone a little bit and try to do something?
A little. I think our biggest problem was their offense versus our skill guys are also our running backs, and their offense was a pass heavy offense where we've got Ty Carter and Dalton Fisher, our running backs, running everywhere because they were the corners on defense. So those guys playing both sides of the ball really gassed them and really hurt us, I think, towards the end of the game.
So with that being said, has depth increased this year in those positions?
The best we can, yes, sir.
7 or 8 teams won first-round playoffs.
And I'm not going to say yes, sir. I'm going to try my best not to say so. If I you,
it's too late.
It's not disrespectful.
Said yes,
sir. For those that have not seen it, go back and see the Halloween edition and.
Well,
you've already given what that's about.
You've already given us fuel for this Halloween edition, this year's Halloween edition. So 5 of 7 teams won the second round. I think that is just as impressive number as 7 of 8 moving on in the first. You get 5 of 7 teams won the second round, which is most we've ever had. And then we kind of got to the elimination games a little bit after that. You got Fairview last year going undefeated in regular season play, losing in the second round. I think the outlook for Coach Hughes and Fairview looks to be favorable with some of those annual teams, those perennial powerhouses, not being in that 3A division anymore.
Yeah, without a doubt. There's the Good Pasture who put them out, and that was a very close game that could have gone anywhere. Both Good Pasture
27-24.
or both Good Pasture and CPA are gone. That's good. The only bad thing is Pearl Cone came down, so they're really good. I don't know where that puts them with Fairview, but yeah, I mean, you got to think they're one of the top. I would think the top 2 or 3 people. Fairview goes west in the playoffs, I believe, don't they? So if that's true, you got to think they're one of the top 2, 3 going into this season. And when you look at the way they did it last year with Lusk, their quarterback, he's going to be a junior. Well, he's going to have to be better, right? Yeah. And he was pretty good last year as a sophomore. So I would think that they're really excited about this year.
We had 2 in the state semifinal game. Brentwood Independence played an epic showdown there. It was one of the best games of the year. Literally, Indy had to come from behind that time to win that game. Barely squeezed.
Well, and remember, Brentwood beat Centennial the week before. So those 3 right there, and I believe that was a really good. I think Brentwood came behind in the Centennial game, didn't they?
Is this all with a backup quarterback too?
Who, Brentwood? Mm-hmm. No, he had Shacklet was back by then.
He was back then.
They had both of them.
Mm-hmm.
They went against Indy. They used both in different formations.
Maybe against Centennial he was, I think, but he was there for them.
So Indy wins. They get into the state championship game, and once again, we're not trying to make light of the situation, but talking about your game, literally, ball up 28 points, goes for the dagger right before halftime to score 35 to get up for the running clock. Obviously, game's over by then on halftime. Throws an interception. They come down and score. Now that they cut it back, they get the ball back. Farragut, that is, gets the ball back, makes the biggest deficit in TWA history to come back and win that thing. I think the $1 million question out there for everybody in the mid-state and the media and whatnot is how does Independence bounce back from 29 straight wins and 1 loss? Now, you think they've won enough games, they feel good about it. That 1 loss, will that loom over them? Or will they bounce back? And it's not an easy bounce back because who do they open up with? They open up with Murfreesboro, Oakland. Yep. So you've seen them. Give us the report right now.
I tell you what, Coach Blade is one of the best coaches in Middle Tennessee, if not the whole state of Tennessee. So, bouncing back from that, I'm 100% positive he'll get them bounced back and get their minds right. I mean, they've been tough. They've been tough so far. This during the 7-on-7 type stuff. The third different quarterback in 3 years. And he's looking good, and they got some good wide receivers, and that running back looks really good too. So they've got a lot of weapons.
Well, Nate Sisko, sophomore coming in, he's the tallest of the 3 that he's had. 3,000 passing quarterbacks, starting with Andrew Bunch, state championship. Brandon Hines, runner-up. Now Sisko, can he fill those shoes, Tate?
I think so. I went and watched Coach Coleman and Independence, and then they were at Riverdale, and he's got some growing to do, but that's what you don't want him playing his best football right now. But he looked pretty good. I know this, he can throw the ball. So I would think if he can get it right up here, which I don't think Coach Blade would have him as the number 1 quarterback right now if he didn't think he could. If he gets this right, he's got the arm. And those 2 receivers on the outside, my gosh, I don't know if anybody's got 2 better receivers than those 2.
Well,
and they can be on the same side too. I mean, you got the one on the outside, one on the inside. It's hard to,
And they always get the publicity. You forget about Troy in the backfield.
He's put on a lot of weight. He's put on a lot of muscle.
I'm going to predict right now and right here that he's going to have the breakout. He could quite possibly be the breakout player of the year this year, because I think there was a little bit of, I don't know if it's underwhelming, but I think it gets mired down in the fact that you've got these superstars out everywhere and they're throwing the ball. I really think that he plays a huge part, more so than he did last year.
Could be. They were pass heavy, last year.
Well, they're always going to be pass heavy.
And the thing you need to remember about Sisko too is he hasn't been getting this system doesn't change. Coach Blade's not one of those guys that change right. He's going to run his system. He's been getting practice reps for the past, with last year he didn't get any game reps or very many, but so it's not like he's brand new to this.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, there's one.
But they have a lot of linemen they got to replace.
He's one of 3 quarterbacks in the conference this year, and I'm not sure we've had this. I have to go back and check. That's going to be 6'2" or plus. Your kid is what, 6'1", 6'2"?
Every bit.
Good looking.
Right. Brandon Morton at Nolensville.
He's taller than
He's tall.
6'2".
Right,
He's
right.
tall, skinny.
Cisco, 6'2", 6'3", release point, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", around there. That's what I remember.
Well,
Coach
Shacklett's he's a little bit over 6 foot, I think.
and I remember Coach Blade talking about earlier. You know, he's one of those integral, detailed guys when it comes to the quarterback. And he was talking about he's never had a quarterback with a release point as high as what Cisco is. You know, Bunch maybe had to take an extra step deep in the pocket to be able to see. Release point kind of, if you remember, Bunch's release point was a little different, kind of a little to the side, so it brought it down. Hines was over the top. Now he's got Cisco dropping back, and he can completely see the field, and his release point is higher than anybody's ever had. So I don't know, in football terms, if that makes a huge difference. I would think that it would, but it still have to throw it with accuracy and timing, which I'm sure they're going to get down. So be interested to see that. Matt Daniels takes over as the head coach at Ravenwood. Have you seen Ravenwood yet?
I have not. You did. Did you see him any on Saturday?
No, sir.
I think everybody, they're under the radar right now. I know they're going to team camp in Kentucky this week. They're going to be gone all week, trying to get last-minute preparation done for them. Nolensville played in their inaugural season last year, had one true game, which was against South Gibson. Fun night for us all. We knew going in that was going to be a tall task just for the fact that you're playing freshmen and sophomores. But if you look back at the JV schedule they played, big wins against Brentwood Academy and other people
Well,
as well.
didn't they finish #1 in the nation?
Number
in JV?
one in the nation. We declared that on this show.
That's a big deal.
Max Preps called and says,
Was that declared by Coach Hester, or was that declared
Max
by
Preps.
Oh, Max
Max
Preps.
Preps called.
Preps.
Oh, okay.
Look at it's
Gregor
on
and Max
Okay.
Preps called and said, number one, they're going to start a new ranking. You didn't know that, JV, right?
Program in
So,
the country.
but I think Old Sparty did well in JV as well. Y'all may, you know, so. But all right, here's what we need to do. Let's go through team by team, weigh in on those that you've seen. We'll get some highlights and top points real quick. Tate, we're going to start with Coach Crawford in Brentwood High School. Finished at 9-5 last year. We said they went to state semis. Round 1 beat Kirby 55-28. Round 2 beat Central 34-27 out of Memphis. Beat Centennial 24-21 in that close game. And then lost to Indy 27-24. They are now moving from 5A to 6A into the Big Six, as we like to call it, Region 6A, which is all of our guys with the exception of Summit. And Dixon included in that group. What stands out to you schedule-wise?
For Brentwood, I like their scrimmage. I mean, I like their schedule. You know, you look at their non-region. Cane Ridge is tough, but usually you want to play those Metro teams early, right? If you can. So they've got them early, and then Stewart's Creek and Father Ryan, Marshall County. Now they're explosive.
That's an interesting game right there.
But I think that's one where size and numbers. I think the biggest difference between 5A and 6A, you're still there, but is I think you have to have more numbers in 6A. Is that fair?
That's it.
And I think that's one thing that Coach Crawford's really trying to address. You know, they've got more numbers than they have, more kids that they feel comfortable playing, and I think you have to have that in 6A. So you're going to see a lot more people on the field, but I think they feel really good about it. And you look at the way it took them a while. Remember, last year was Coach Finch's first year as offense coordinator. It was Shacklet and Dreyer's first year as the quarterbacks. And I think it took them a while to really figure out what they were about. But really, from the second half of that season, the offense and into the playoffs, that offense was playing really, really well. Both those guys are back. Parker Bouillon is a playmaker that can make plays from wide receiver. I think Brentwood's going to be really tough this year.
I do too. Cole Mabry, Notre Dame signee.
They got a good line. I mean,
Parker Bouillon is 3-star / 4-star guy right now. He's the receiver he's getting a lot of looks right now. Shacklet, Dreyer, two quarterback approach. You did mention, I think they are going to be losing two key pieces. Tucker Day obviously flips the field on you as kicker, and then Christian LeBrecht is going to be probably tight end at UT Martin. I think he was a big staple in their program as well. But
especially in the playoffs.
Brentwood.
I think they're going to be better on defense.
And looking back at this schedule, too, you got Cane Ridge and Stewart's Creek. Those are two potentially playoff teams later on in the playoffs that they might see again. So that's pretty good scheduling right there.
Well, Coach Crawford, he's going to have his guys ready. There's no time for cupcakes. The cupcake in that group is literally Marshall County, and that's not a cupcake for anybody. So
they would love to pick one of the 6A or any Williams County team.
Yes.
That's more like
they'll fire all their
doubt.
bullets at that one.
Yes.
All right, moving on. Coach Kreisky, second year Centennial. I don't think anybody can argue the fact of what Coach Kreisky did last year. finished 11-2 with nobody even remotely thinking that. Vegas wouldn't even want to put a line on that. So the question is, can he follow it up with another performance? I think right now he's a kind of a dark horse pick, flying under the radar. Everybody's thinking he lost quite a bit. He lost Eli Katina, Devious Chrisman, Nick Bell, DeRoe, a lot of those kids, Tony Wall, a lot of those defensive staples, they were really, really good players for him. He beat Bolton in the first round, 35-12, beat Henry County 21-0, and lost to Brentwood 24-21. Once again, 5A, moving to 6A this year in the Super 6 group. What do you think? What sticks out in their schedule?
I think they have a tougher non-district schedule or region schedule than Brentwood. Hendersonville, nobody runs their form of the wing tee. And there are different forms, right? I mean, it's different from what they run, but the way he does it, nobody runs it quite like them. So that's a tough week to prepare for, right? Would you agree? They got some playmakers that are tough,
especially when you've got Ravenwood and Independence on each side of
that. That's right.
So.
That's right. I mean, Ravenwood and Independence couldn't be any more different than Hendersonville. And Cane Ridge is tough. We already talked about them. Playing his brother, his twin brother,
Kreisky
Riverdale.
Bowl. The Kreisky Bowl.
Kreisky Bowl. That's got to make national news. And in Hillsboro, you got to think they're going to be pretty tough.
Right.
Here's what I think. I think they're going to be good. I think people are overlooking them. Their quarterback is back, Trey Stewart. He's looked good in the 7-on-7s.
He's looked very good.
And Jariel Wilson, although he's not the biggest back in the Mid-State, he's a dude. And then what we found out from spring practice is Trey Carlton's going to be a dude too.
Tavion Fleming.
Trey
Carlton, sophomore. Nobody even knows who he is right now. Could he be up there for a possible breakout player of the year? Or could Jariel Wilson continue on and be one of those as well?
If Jariel's healthy, he's going to get the bulk of the carries, I would think.
Yep.
So, but Trey will definitely, you'll know who he is.
Have you seen those guys at 7-on-7s?
We have. We played them 2 times already.
Okay. And initial thoughts?
Very athletic. Quarterback does a great job.
Devious Chrisman. I know that Tennessee Tech was showing some interest. I'm not sure if we ever signed or not. Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't.
Okay. Moving on. Fairview High School. Coach Chris Hughes, first undefeated team at Fairview since 1979. Not only does he, go undefeated, he follows it up with a really, really good win against East Nashville. And I'm telling you right now, that linebacker that played for East Nashville that's going to Oklahoma could quite possibly
went to LSU.
Did he end up going to LSU?
You're right. He was committed.
He was
Phillips.
He was one of the best-looking athletes I've ever laid eyes on.
Yes.
You want to talk about a dude.
He was a grown man.
And the Fairview Yellow
Jackets. He looks a lot like Coach Coleman.
I'm going to tell you, the Fairview Yellow Jackets, I don't think he liked to being hit, so I hate to see what's going to happen in the SEC. You look good, but, man, you're going to have to step up. So, anyway, 11-1, round one. They beat East Nashville 48-24, lost to Goodpasture 28-23. They tried to come back in that game, almost had an opportunity for a comeback win in that game. Actually took the lead late, and then Goodpasture won, I think, right there at the very end. 3A, they staying on the 3A level. They're losing Jake Beathard and Hunter Caldwell, and those two guys right there.
I think that's big, man.
Big for them. You did mention Cam Harris-Luss coming back. What sticks out on anything on their schedule? I do have one interesting note there on 10-20. They are playing for the first time ever, and look at where it is. Ravenwood is traveling to Fairview.
You got to think that's going to be a
If they were
crowd,
to
right?
win that game,
oh my gosh,
they're going to shut down Snappy's Pizza.
Snappy's will be open all night.
And everything else is going to be, it's going to be, I love it though. I love it. Coach Hughes has always said, now whether he's telling the truth or not, he's always called everybody wanting to play. Now he's going to get him a dose. And I love it. I love it for him and his program. I love it for Fairview. I think that this is a big buy-in for the WCS Sports Conference. But let me tell you right now, they have got circled right now, and they know it. That Battle of 840 game in week 1 is the biggest game for them all year long, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. Between them and Coach Rathbone, he's talking about that. It's leading up to this. They've already had one little 7-on-7 deal at the Titans, and it was it could get contested a little bit, and they're all laying in the weeds waiting for this big game, and that's a huge game for them.
Yeah, it's, you can just tell the principals, it's important to them, the communities, and it's always a fun game. So that's right, and it starts your season off on the right way. So, but Cam Harris-Lusk, he's going to be better. He's an athletic quarterback. He's a dual threat guy, really smooth. He's going to be a heck of a player. I don't think you can underestimate, or I don't think you can put enough of a value on what Hunter Caldwell and Jake Beathard meant. They played both ways, and those guys, it's going to be tough to replace
good players.
Guys. So probably going to have to do it a little bit different than they did last year. The great thing is you got a great trigger man.
Franklin High School, Coach Donnie Webb, Doctor of Defense, 10-3, beat Germantown at 38-7 in playoff round 1, beat White Station 31-10, and then eventually lost to Whitehaven, the 6A state champions, 35-14. They were the 6A champions. I got mixed up with 5A, but this is on the 6A level last year. They remain in that Super 6 group, Region 6, 6A. You look at their schedule, no nights off for the Rebels as well. You've got Hendersonville in there, Riverdale. What do you think?
Week 1's huge, isn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you're looking at
both of them.
So let's talk about that real quick. I'm glad you point that out, Coach Coleman. 6 teams in Region 6A. How many teams get in playoffs? 4. How many WCS Sports Conference teams are in that group?
5.
Who's going to be the one outside looking in? Week 1 is huge.
Well, and on Centennial, we were talking on Centennial and Ravenwood open up. So 2 big weekends for both of them. I mean, that's kind of like the SEC, the Tennessee-Florida game every year. Whoever loses that one, golly, we got some room to make up. Both those guys are looking at it on that game. Hendersonville, tough. Oakland, tough. Golly, those are going to be 2 tough games. But then Spring Hill and McGavick, I don't know how after the season he had. I don't know how Dr. Defense got those 2 guys to schedule them, but that's a pretty good schedule.
Yeah. Spring Hill's going to be tough, though. They've got a good running back.
Yep.
So
he's where's he currently?
Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. So looking at the returning players, Max Ray obviously getting tons of publicity. The Ohio State offensive tackle, 6'8", 275, big guy, really big guy. Ran it off the top #1 spot on the Dirty Dozen list from Tennessean. You got Carter Hendry coming back. Got a few other big pieces coming back. Caden Williams going to Army last year, offensive lineman as well. Mitch Rossi, Connor Polk. They're losing a lot, but the numbers for Franklin seem to stay around that 100-plus mark for those guys, so he can figure out a way to kind of plug in some holes. But, with the Ray boys both being on the line, the younger Ray boy also being a preseason All-American sophomore, big kid.
And he's a sophomore now.
Are we going to continue running the triple option stuff, the between the tackles? What's going to happen?
Well, one, Carter Henry's the man. All right, they're not going to do the 2 quarterbacks this year. He'll be by himself, and he's probably their best running back right now. So I don't know. Coach Winfrey is no longer there. Coach Tomlinson is going to be calling the offense for the first time. So yeah, I think it would look very similar. But obviously, when you change something like that, it's going to be different. So,
but I'd say they're still going to run the football with
they're
those
going
2
to
big tackles.
That's right.
Would you not?
No,
I don't know a whole lot about it, but I mean,
Coach
if it was basketball, we're playing inside out for those
right.
post players. But
and they're going to hit you with a little play action off the.
We scrimmaged them last year. We scrimmaged them this year, so we'll see them. They're
now
tough.
Is that at y'all's place this year, or is it at Franklin?
It's at Franklin.
And they do a pretty good job. That's a pretty well attended event as well. If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. And after Franklin is Independence High School. Coach Blade, we talked about them earlier. Look at their schedules. We've already talked about their schedules. Border battle, week 2 for you guys.
Big game for us.
They're going from 5A to 6A. Does that? All right. One question before we move on from them. We'll talk about key returning and lost players. 5A to 6A. How big a difference is that?
I think it's a big difference, like we said, depth-wise. I mean, the 6A, you've got more numbers, so you're going to have 2 deep probably, or you got a guy playing just one way, which helps out tremendously. So, his numbers are up, so, surely he's going to have – and I think their wide receivers don't usually play defense or anything like that, so they should help him out.
Which means the same thing. Their DBs, like what you mentioned with Cane Ridge,
Yeah.
If Ty and them aren't playing every snap of the game, helps out a little bit.
Absolutely.
You don't see that as much success.
Biggest piece of the puzzle for Landon Guidry. You cannot put a dollar value
Tough
on
guy
that
to
kid and what he
replace.
did. Cole Huner, Hunter Dupree, defensive side. Nolensville High School, first year, going to be starting in 4A. Region games, Lawrence County, Maplewood, Marshall County, Spring Hill, Tullahoma. Uphill battle for Coach Hester. Well, look there on week 4, Summit. Nolensville, that'll be a nice
Did you
little
want to
game.
do that?
On the turf.
You would.
On the turf. Then he follows that up with Brentwood later on, and and he's got Page in week 2. Brandon Wharton right now getting a lot of traction.
Dual threat athlete. He's going to be really fun to watch. I mean, he's a guy that can do a lot of things, especially with his feet. I would think you've done it, but I think where they're still going to be just behind is in the lines.
Yeah, and numbers too. We talked about if they have to go both ways, it'd be.
But Coach Hester's going to have them right. I promise you that.
He'll pull out every trick in a book against Fayetteville. That'll be fun to watch.
Page High School finished at 7-4 last year, making it round 2 of the playoffs. Beat Chattanooga Central. Good win for the Patriots, 34-7. Lost to Spring Hill. That was one of those back and forth games, 45-31 last year. I know they'd like to have that game back because I think they feel confident that they could beat Spring Hill in that, but came up a little short. Page Patriots going from 4A to 5A. How big a jump? Is that more of a jump from 5A to 6A?
It's going to be competitive. It's a tough region. That's automatically one of our big rivals now. That's a close right down the road for us, and a region game for us. So it's a huge rival with us.
So let's talk about Region 5, 5A. You have Columbia Central, Franklin County, Lincoln County, Shelbyville, Summit, White County, and Page. White County, that's a long ways to go to get a W, but we'll take it, right?
White County's a long way to go.
But right now, returning Jacob Van Landingham, quarterback. Everybody kind of knows that name over there in the Page area. Good quarterback, good athlete. Michael Burdick is one of his receivers. Bubba Johnson, running back, coming back. Page looks to be pretty.
I love that
well to go.
dude. I would take Bubba Johnson on any program in this conference, man.
You're saying Bubba Johnson can play for any of the Big Six?
I think he can. He'd get on the field without a doubt. He'd start for
Now,
most
let's
of them.
remind everybody what.
Would you take him?
I'd take you.
What grade is Bubba Johnson in? Remind everybody.
Sophomore.
That's pretty amazing.
Grown man.
Talk about some of the things he did last year.
Well, he's physical. He's fast. He runs the ball hard. You know, he's got a good vision for it. And then, you know, in wrestling, I can't remember where he ended up. I think he placed, and then in track he set the disc and the shot put record at Page for a freshman. But the kid is a football player.
It's
man.
abnormal to be that young and to be that physical.
It's
Right.
abnormal.
And develop.
It's abnormal to go, and I didn't see him. I'm sure he practiced, but it's abnormal to walk out there probably in his first year ever to throw the discus and win the state championship in the AA level.
Yeah.
I mean, so this dude, I mean,
He's an athlete.
I would say
He's a competitor.
He's physical,
He'll
too.
get a ton of touches, but let's not just, you know, I think that Coach Rathbone is going to rely pretty heavily upon Van Landingham and his targets to look at the air game, to look at what's going to happen with that. It's going to be very interesting. It's even more interesting for them to go this 4A to 5A
you want to
level.
talk about tough starting off. Okay, you mentioned how big 840 is. Their first 4 games, Fairview, Nolensville, neighboring communities. They want to win a Franklin County, Ravenwood. That's a tough 4 games.
And if I'm not mistaken, is this the first time Page has ever played Ravenwood as well?
I think so.
I'm almost certain it is. It rounds off Antioch, and then it goes to your place at Summit, which is deep in the season. By that time, it will already be shaping up for those top 4. You'll kind of see what's kind of going on. Then you got Lincoln County, White County, and Shelbyville, and Columbia. So, you know, I think going to 5A, if Page can get in one of those top 4 spots, which I think they can, given the fact from last year, you got to think going in Summit, Shelbyville, probably one of the top 2 favorites, right, going in.
I definitely think Page is up there.
And I think you put Page in there, and then you got Columbia, Franklin County, Lincoln County, and White County fighting out that 4th spot. So, I mean, it's very feasible. That would be a huge accomplishment for them guys to go in from 4A to 5A and get in the top 4 spot.
Without a doubt. And Shelbyville's got athletes, as he knows firsthand. So I can't. How many points y'all going to score combined this year? What are y'all going to break 100 again?
More than the other guy.
Well, we have run out of time, Tate. We're going to pick back up next week. We're going to finish out with Ravenwood and Summit. Unfortunately, unless you want to join us again, but you've given us a good insight on what's going on right now. We run out of time. This is the way it always works. If we don't do it in the
He
front.
needs to take you to lunch.
So, hey, we do wish you the best of luck, man.
Thank you.
I can't wait.
Thank you.
It's on top of us. It's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exciting.
I mean,
Today was the first day of, helmet shoulder pads, so it's exciting.
So, well, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on WCS Sports Connection.
You're always trying to keep your kids safe, right? What about preventing concussion? Concussion can happen anywhere, on a sports field, at the park, even at home. So you need to know the ABCs. Assess the situation, be alert for signs and symptoms, and contact a healthcare professional. Most kids recover completely, but seek care to help them get better faster. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. Keep kids safe. It's as simple as ABC.